Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take on the models I've been painting for the miniature games we play here on the channel. Last time was very Fallout Wasteland Warfare focused. This time it is mostly a huge chunk for the Batman miniature game, with a little bit of Fallout thrown in, and one miniature to represent Marvel Zombies, the Zombicide game. And everybody's favourite, I know it's my favourite, scenery. Always love painting scenery, especially when it's Modiphius's weird resin. I guess we can start with that as we go from left to right, and yeah, we'll just talk about it. Oh, and also, along with all the usual paints I use, I still had a few that I bought from the new range of contrast paints that Citadel added. I think I had 3 I hadn't used yet. Managed to use one of them today, so we can talk a little bit about a new colour I'll be throwing into the mix every so often. So you know what, let's get Wasp out of the way, Zombie Wasp I should say, for Marvel Zombies, because you've already seen her in 3 videos now I think. I just didn't have her in a painting update because she was on the table last time and she's having great deals of trouble trying to be focused. Let's hope that helps. I think so. So mostly use Imperial Fist contrast paint for the yellow parts of her armour and Black Templar for the black. It was super simple, not highly detailed really. For the wings I mix in Athematic Blue with a very tiny bit of Luxian Purple while it was still damp, to try and give it that kind of biosynthetic look that the official paint job has, and obviously nowhere near as good, but just trying to mimic the kind of patterns of insect wings caught in the light that I think they were going for, and did a lot better, but still I'm not entirely sure what she's meant to be standing on. She is meant to be small, I think, but it's some kind of like water wheel. Like, if anyone knows what she's meant to be standing on, do tell me. And I kind of copied the official colours, like it is meant to be wood back there on metal with like red glowy bits in the circles. I don't know what it's meant to be. I don't know what she's standing on, but by all means tell me so I know. And she'll probably be in the party through to the end of the series, I think, because she seems a lot more useful to me than Deadpool and Cap. Now that's the downside to only playing with the Wave 1 stuff, is that you're limited to the characters that come in the box, whereas you're missing out on the Wave 2, which has all the Kickstarter stretch goals, the expansions that add so many more playable zombies and heroes you can go with as well. So that's a shame, because I don't know what their abilities are. So that's the downside to playing it as soon as Wave 1 arrived. So let's get the scenery out of the way. This is 2 out of 3 barricades from a barricade themed, well, Fallout themed barricade pack that Modiphius released years ago. Apparently it's quite hard to track down now. I got them because a while back when I first started playing Wasteland Warfare, I picked up kind of like a job lot of someone selling off just stuff they had for the game on eBay super cheap, and it included these amongst other things, like another copy of the starter set contents and that kind of thing. And I saw on the hashtag on Twitter, here's what the base looks like, someone had painted up this one specifically, and I was like, oh, you know what, that doesn't look so hard, I'll do that. And honestly, this one I think turned out fine and was not too hard. I used Snakebite Leather for the dirt, the dirty dirt, Leadbelcher Silver with Army Painter Rust over the top, Wildwood for the wooden panels, and just any black contrast or normal paint for the tires, a little bit of orange for Gryph-hound Orange for the cones, and Bal Red for the stop sign that's built into the makeshift barricade. Basilicanum Grey for the cinder block thingies. So there is a little bit of like the Modiphius problem, like sections where no matter how clean I made the scenery, no matter how much I scrubbed them in warm water and made sure I was applying very thick layers of base coat, they just weren't sticking. But for the most part, that part was fine. I struggled with it so much more on this one though, to the point where there's still plenty of parts where the paint is just not there, and still don't know why. It's also not in focus, is it? It's something to do with Modiphius's resin that is not the same with any other miniature game that comes in resin that I've ever experienced. A couple of friends of mine have also recently got into Wasteland Warfare, my fault for the record, and they're having the same experience. So it's not isolated, and it's not because I'm doing it wrong when I clean my miniatures before painting them. It is just something weird with the resin, because it isn't even that the paint is like it's pooling wrong, it's separating and disintegrating or something. It's very strange. From a distance though, like from the back end, say it was behind them there, I think it still looks fine, but it really is frustrating to deal with, and it's probably worse on some of the older models more so, but when it's big flat areas as well, it hurts. So there is one more barricade to do. I can't guarantee I'll do it soon because of the frustration I had with this one here, but at least 2 out of the 3 are done, and it will add some more specific flavour to the Fallout videos because it uses scenery from the Fallout games. So the biggest part of, oh, you know what? I totally forgot him just hiding there. I was going to move on to Batman. Yeah, I totally forgot, and he's already been in a video as a kind of cameo, sort of. I won't go into the specifics of how, just in case that spoils it for you. But this is one of the Children of Adam starter box or core box or whatever they're calling it, part of the Commonwealth. No, not the Commonwealth wave. Yeah, the Commonwealth wave. Yeah. So he's wearing the standard garb and is using a gamma gun. They're not super fleshed out as a faction or sub-faction yet, but that's probably because they'll be doing a Far Harbor wave at some point, and they'll really get into the Children of the Atom there because they're a major player in that expansion for Fallout 4. But this was the first one I tried. I did honestly find some frustration with him and the paint not pulling correctly. There's lots of nooks and crannies in his like rags he's wearing, which is good because it adds detail, but it just was a frustration at times. In terms of colours, I used Space Wolves Grey to give that denim jean look, a lot of Basilicanum Grey, lightly mixed down I think, Lab Doctor Silver for whatever that's meant to be on his stomach, and a little bit of Plaguebearer flesh on his green undershirt. And I think that is Striking Scorpion Green that I put inside the centre of the gamma gun to show that he's using a gamma radiation gun. I sincerely hope that was in focus at least some of the time. Although you don't want to see too much of a detail because, as I say, you'll see the parts where the paint did not pull. But that's the other part that I did for Wasteland Warfare. All that's left now is Batman stuff. So because I was waiting for the whole Arkham Supervillains empty box thing to be resolved, I got really stuck into the Deacon Blackfire releases. Covered a few of them already, like last time we had Jake and Ratface, and before that we had the Young Woman. This is almost all the rest of it, with also this thrown in, which I guess we'll talk about first because he's not connected to the Deacon Blackfire stuff, which is all of this. All that's left is the 2 oval base miniatures, which is like 2 tramps in shopping carts on each of them. Oh no, I think there's only one on one of them because they're a hoarder, so their shopping cart is just filled with junk, and then there's 2 that are kind of riding into battle like a horse. Pretty fun. Hate the oval bases that they use though for those kind of things. They're not even like themed like the rest of these are, so they stand out in a bad way. So I'll need to work up the effort to put them in, but with the completion of all of these, they can be used in a battle report, and I think because of the order I'm posting these, it will actually have gone live yesterday. So you will already have seen it, I think, and they have a lot of complicated rules, so I'm sure it went perfect. Anyway, this is the King of Gotham version of Batman that Night Model sent me as compensation for the Paladler with the Supervillains empty box. So it's one of the big leaders for the game on a throne. They're doing versions for like Joker, Two-Face, all the major leaders. Very fun model to paint up, very cool pose. Batman just sitting imposingly on his chair with his crotch fully exposed. I did the usual Batman colours. I don't really think we need to cover them. I will talk a bit more about the other Batman though, because the tone, it's actually a nice contrast, and I don't mean that as a pun, because this is Batman in his stereotypical Batman colours, or at least stereotypical to me. Kind of like the Batman Incorporated almost, with the way the insignia looks on his chest, which isn't my favourite, but it kind of looks like that. Just kind of like the dark bluish black cape and his standard grey tights. But then you compare it to something like the cult version of Batman, where the colours are very muted if you're copying the front cover of the book, which they were when they designed this miniature. So it's just a nice little colour exercise to see how the different tones for Batman works. Like for Cult Batman, which I guess we can talk about simultaneously, I didn't do any blue tint on the cape at all. Probably went a bit OTT on this Batman, to be honest. It's just pure black with a tiny bit of highlight, but then that's Black Templar doing the rest. Yeah, Black Templar, I think it was Black Templar. And then the same grey was used for both, but I applied it lighter to the Cult Batman, and then he doesn't have an insignia, he's just got a ripped open chest area, so there's just a little bit of blood to add a bit more character. But we don't really need to talk about the Gotham Kings version. I just want to show it as a matter of note that he is finished. He has already been in a battle report as well. Technically another option for a way to play Batman, since there's only one other Batman on this size of base. So if you wanted him to be a stand-in for, say, Heavy Metal Batman,
that would make his Inspire abilities better, because you measure from the base. So he's got a slight advantage there. Disadvantages too, like for trying to fit on scenery fully, etc. So it isn't all just pure advantage. But I guess since we were already kind of talking about the cult Batman, the Batman that's been kind of mentally broken and mind controlled, there's how he turned out. I've already talked in the past about what I did with the Deacon Blackfire sewer bases, and he's just got one as well. So I'm not going to bother repeating that, but I really like it. It turned out great. I don't think he's an ideal fit for the optimal lists for Deacon Blackfire, because to get him in the list, you're going to have to dump like 3, 4 hobos. Or maybe like one sidekick, or Ratface or Jake, which you probably don't want to do because they have important rules for the team to work properly. So I don't think he fits their mold of being like a horde army, but it's just a nice reference to the comics where he did look like this. This is the front cover of the comic, so it is neat, and he is still Batman, so he's very powerful. Don't think it helps them score their cards as much, but who knows, because I haven't tried them out yet. Whereas you might have already seen how they ended up, and maybe he was like super clutch, who knows. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention some of them are like standing on papers and stuff as well. It's not that I've forgotten to paint some of the floor. So yeah, that's the two Batmen, and then it's just over to the Deacon himself and his murder hobos. So I guess let's start with the Deacon himself, him and all his complicated rules. So he goes along with the totem that I think was last time, if not last time, the time before. Much of the same colours used for him, obviously, because the base goes along with it. All the horrible stinky sewer water with some slime dripping down, some candles because that's the theme, one dead rat and one live rat looking at it because I thought that was neat. And then the man himself, he's just wearing his vicar garb, so it's just a lot of the black contrast of your choice. Some black non-oil on his white hair just to make it that little bit grey. You could use Basilicanum grey if you wanted a darker tone, but I thought it was fine the way it is. Kind of like how his face turned out as well. Oh, the dog might bark in a second. Brace yourselves. I see her looking for things to bark at. And I kind of accidentally made his eyes look pure white, and I kind of like that because it makes him seem even creepier. A little bit Exorcist, but still creepier. So I kind of like that. And he is very imposing. I tried to add a little bit of reflection from the slime water. Didn't really do it as well as the official paint job, but at least there's a hint of it, which is just applying it while the contrast is damp. And then at the back here you've got some piping and whatnot. So yeah, very neat model, very imposing. And he is the leader of his murder hobo flock. Goes along with all the other people we've covered so far, and now we're on to kind of like the poor souls that he's convinced. So these 4 are part of the box that also comes with the ones with the shopping trolley. I think they're called Blackfire's Fold, but it is just murder hobos. And then you have these 2 special ones here. The cat lady, I want to talk about her because I could not work out how to correctly assemble her because she doesn't come with feet. And I don't know if that's because I had a miscast or missing part, or missing parts, but she didn't have any feet, and to me it looked like she was supposed to be propped up on multiple cats, just so you couldn't really tell where her feet is. So she is meant to be taller in this, but I was just getting frustrated with trying to work it out, and there's no assembly instructions, of course, so I just made her be really short, which kind of fits as a crazy old lady that just hangs around with cats and probably eats the same food as them. So for her dress, I mixed together a lot of basically every brown. So there's a little bit of snakebite in there, there's a little bit of wildwood for the middle tier, and then there's a little bit of skeletal horde as well. The snakebite is her top jersey, and then just a little bit of red. I forget quite which red. I think this is Blood Angel's red. It's a bit too dark to be Baal red. And I found it a bit frustrating because it isn't correctly assembled. Couldn't for the life of me work out how. I'm pretty sure a couple of the cats that you have to go with are also mismatched, or were miscast I should say. So if anyone did correctly assemble her, how? Because I know for sure there's one that kind of had a slot for her underneath her base, and it would mean that it'd be poking out like there-ish, but that was it. There was nothing for the other side, so she'd be lopsided, and that didn't seem right to me. But I'm still fine with how she came out, but she's obviously much shorter than your average Batman mini, but hey, she's a crazy cat lady, so who cares. On that note, this is Crazy Bird Person, who is a lot like Lawrence Fishburne's character in John Wick 2 onwards, or 3 onwards, I can't remember when he first debuted. He's refusing to get into focus, and I wish he would, because I quite like how the face for this one turned out. Come on now, he's right there. There we go. So that was also, I kind of painted those two simultaneously, so I mixed the same kind of colours, Wildwood, Skeletal Horde, Snakebite Leather for his boots on him, and just a black contrast paint for his beard and whatnot. The birds are just the base coat with Agrax shade over the top, which was also used very liberally over everything else, because these people live in the sewers, and the sewer and the horribleness, etc. below. He has some kind of necklace in front of him in the water. I wasn't sure what that was. I figured it's a reference from the comics, so I wasn't sure what to make it look like. But he does have some kind of belonging just kind of going through the sewer water in front of him. So they are just henchmen. They're a little bit different in the sense that they have one unique role each. She has the cat marker stuff that Catwoman has, and he can move a suspect marker, move it to a teammate, and then the teammate's allowed to make a move to kind of just be like a messenger pigeon passing on information, I think. Probably not worth giving Audacity to either, but there are other ways to make them get extra actions. So I want you all to know as we pull the final 4 murder hobos here, I did a cut there. The dog was getting impatient, as you might have heard, so I threw 2 tennis balls simultaneously, which obviously she can't go after at the same time. So in defiance, she just stared at me like, what am I supposed to do with that? You threw 2 of them. I want 1 thrown for me. She did eventually bring 1 ball back. See, 1 ball back. So that's getting thrown. Anyway, the important part is these 2 out of the 4 murder hobos, because these 2 are using a new colour. This guy's jacket, this guy's shorts, they are using Eldari Emerald, which is one of the new shades of green added in the new wave of contrast paint Citadel released late last year. And I didn't really have a paint that matched up to the official paint job for their colours, so this was as close as I could get, and it seemed like a good excuse to try out a new colour. So I'm not really sure how to describe the green. I wouldn't call it, well, I guess it kind of is emerald green, but compared to like Warp Lightning, it's not as dark. Compared to something like Plague Bearer, it's obviously got more depth and more green, less yellow. Compared to, what's the other one? Striking Scorpion, it's not as vibrant for sure, it's a little paler. So it fits in nicely in that gap between all of those, I think. So that was what I used for his jacket. His scarf is Bal Red, shirt is just Talisar Blue, Snakebite Leather for his trousers, and just Black Templar or Black Crusade or whatever it's called. I keep on blanking on the name of the new black contrast paint. But either way, I used that. There's always one colour I always blank on when I do these. Last time it was the base coat. So yeah, for his shorts, if he gets into focus, exactly the same Eldari Emerald, and that is Imperial Fist yellow for his shirt. He's got a little flask of whiskey sticking out from his belt, which is a nice touch. He's obviously holding up a rusty knife as well, and he looks insane. For his jacket, I did the usual, which I did for some of the others. So this is Wildwood, and then also kind of mixing in some of that Army Painter rust, just because it's an old jacket, so it would be horrible on the ends of it, just to make it look unclean, because it's meant to look unclean. So, you know. And the usual sewer base for him as well. These are the 2 much more standard colours used for both of these. For the one who is wearing the puffer jacket thing and brandishing one used broken ball, Gryphon Orange for the jacket part. For the blue though, I can't quite remember if that's Talisar. It doesn't look quite like it. It might be Usherman blue. I don't remember fully. But either way. Oh yeah, I did notice, I think my Guilliman flesh is starting to pull and become too shiny, and I don't know why, because it's nowhere near done. It's a new pot I opened relatively recently, but I did notice it badly on him, that it's making his skin parts shine just a bit too much. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. And he's covered in plasters, incidentally. That's why I got them all over his legs there. So I don't know what he did to himself. I guess he did try and break a ball probably with his hand, so that's probably what resulted in that. And then finally, the grabby hands murder hobo. He just wants to hug you, he hugs a little bit too tight, that's all. So that is Militarum green, which is the green I forgot to mention earlier for his jacket. So again, another one of the paler, more military colours, much less vibrant than the one for those 2. The same blue, whichever one it was, for his trousers. It might be no, that definitely looks like Usherman blue on his trousers here to me anyway, with some aggressor shade over the top. And that is Skeletal Horde for his horrible shirt that's got a big old rip in it right below his neck. And again, the usual stuff for his base, that one sewer colour that I never remember the name of because it has an orc name or some kind of name from Warhammer Fantasy anyway. But very fun. They were fun to paint because they're such a mixture of well, maybe bad stereotypes for sewers and sewer dwellers, but they're just really fun looking, and I like that they all have very impressive themed bases. And then you've got the ones with the shopping carts, which are just on oval bases, and they couldn't be bothered doing themed bases that match the rest of the set, and that sucks. The oval bases are bad in general. Not having the theme bases also is just, lazy. So that is it for another 2 weeks-ish of what I've been getting painted. I did forget to be specific, but everything with the exception of Wasp was done in the Grey Seer base paint, just because some people get annoyed if I don't mention it. So everything in Grey Seer except Wasp, who was done with the Wraithbone contrast paint base. That's the one that leads to slightly brighter colours, but yeah, everything including the scenery. So next time there will be more Batman miniatures getting painted. I'll eventually get around to the Arkham Asylum supervillains now that's been sorted, but I want to finish off the murder hobos. I've got the Big Bane to finish, or well, to start really. I assembled him the other day and then I accidentally knocked him off the table and snapped him in about 4 places. Managed to get him back together, not as nicely, but it's going to be an absolute pain painting that one. So I'm not really looking forward to it that much. There is also some more Fallout Wasteland Warfare on the table, and I believe I'll need to get around to doing a little bit more Final Girl. That's my plan anyway. As always, we might see what happens. Like sometimes things just come along. Like for instance, I'm waiting for a game to ship out that I bought on Kickstarter years ago now. Don't really want to say what it is, don't want to spoil the surprise. So I'll just leave it at that. If you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to do so by tweeting at me. My Twitter is linked in the description box below. Doesn't matter if it's a game I play or not, and I hope this inspires you to get through your pile of Grey Shame. The level at which you paint isn't important as long as you enjoy doing it. That's the important part. It's very relaxing, and it makes your tables look a bit better as well, rather than having grey models everywhere, at least in my opinion. Thank you for watching though, and I shall see you again in roughly 2 weeks for another update. Until then, ta-ta for now.